You first of all, shout out to the Boondocks, one of the greatest cartoons of all time, one of my favorite shows ever.
Yeah, I agree.
Walk me through, because shout out to Aaron McGruger, he's a genius. Walk me through like the Boondock situation, because to me that if you just like as a callback to like a point in time in like America and hip hop culture, if you just watch the Boondocks, you're like, there's so much cultural significance with everything they did, especially the first 2 seasons. But you being a part of that, how did that end up coming to fruition? And
I was, a lot of this stuff comes from me sincerely being a fan, right? Because I feel like everything that I made that I felt was really dope was because it came from a sincere place.
Yeah.
So, Carl Jones was the co-writer and essentially the main artist.
Yep.
On the Boondocks cartoon. He was partnered with Aaron McGruder. Aaron would be kind of the main writer, but Carl would actually do most of the drawing and do a lot of the voices and also co-write the stuff. So me and Carl had a relationship. I've never met Aaron McGruder in my life. Like literally never met him. But me and Carl started to develop a relationship. He had these YouTube skits called Tube Steak, where he would just do these little kind of comedy skits. So me and him kind of hooked up and we did an episode, like a Tube Steak episode together. And he was just a really cool, super talented guy. He went on to like date Erykah Badu later on.
Good for him.
Stuff like that. And so me and him started developing a kind of rapport. We did a couple like little skits, whatever, we did moderately well. And I remember I went down to the studio that the Boondocks was being made out of. I think it was at Sony Studios. And they were showing me how on the walls they had VladTV.com articles, and they would use these articles for ideas for the episodes, because we were one of the only hip hop news sites during that time. I think, World Star was the other one, and then there was like Now.
Yeah, when we would do show prep for the radio show, like your site would have like all kinds of cool shit and then random shit. Like,
right. So, they're already kind of utilizing Vlad TV in the show indirectly. Me and him had kind of formed a relationship as well. And I remember one day I was in LA and I just called him up like, yo, what's up? What you doing? We were just chopping up. I'm like, hey man, get me on the show. And he was like, yo, we're working on an episode right now that this might work for. So it was an episode of Thugnificent going to the radio to beef with like the Soulja Boy kind of character. It was sort of a takeoff of the Ice-T Soulja Boy beef that was happening during that time. And at the time they'd already recorded it, and it might have been D-Ray Davis who had done the original voiceover.
Okay.
Sorry, D-Ray, I'm sorry. I took your job. But it was basically, it was just sort of like this kind of quirky DJ character that was sort of all over the place or whatever. And Carl had talked to Aaron, was like, yo, like, why don't we instead
swap that out? Yeah.
Swap it out to something authentically hip hop. Right. Which is
and a real platform.
Yeah. They asked to use my logo and everything else like that. So they were open to the idea. So I went down to Sony Studios, they gave me the script. And I kind of read it a few times. First, I was trying to kind of go off script, and they're like, just
stick to the script.
Stick to the script. You know what we're doing here, right? So I stuck to the script. They took a bunch of photos of me of what I was wearing that day, and that
became the cartoon.
Became the cartoon.
Wow.
And it was like when I saw it, I was just like, gah. And I know like DJ Head had been pushing this clip recently where it was like, did DJ Vlad cause the end of the Boondocks? Because what had happened was, we had done that, and then the trailer came out, and Complex reached out to me and was like, yo, you're on the trailer of the new Boondocks. So I did an interview, and I just very generally talked, like I didn't give any details. I just generally talked about how I got on the show. But what was happening at the time was that Carl Jones and Aaron McGruder, there was already a tense relationship happening there. And if you watch my interview with Carl, when we talk about this, like, this is already something I covered myself. Essentially, Carl was working on other projects. He was working on Black Dynamite at the time, right, with my man Michael Jai White. So there was a tension.
That was the anime, right?
The anime.
Yeah, RZA did the soundtrack, I think.
I think so,
It was great, yeah.
Did he? Possibly.
RZA had something to do with it, I believe.
I'm not sure.
Possibly. Yeah, maybe not.
But like he was essentially I think he was working on Freaknik, I think.
Okay.
As well. So Carl was branching out and doing other shit. And I guess the way he described it to me, Aaron was bothered by it because he wanted him to just do just the Boondocks. And he explained how this was like a huge job. Like when you look at the Boondocks, a lot of this stuff it's not computer animation. It's all hand drawn.
Hand drawn.
It's all work. They do a lot of the work in I think Korea,
right?
Like South Korea did a lot of the animation, but they have to set it all up. So there was already this tension between the two of them. And then when this interview came out, Aaron called up Carl and started screaming at him. Like, yo, what the fuck is this guy, this DJ guy talking about my show? And it's like,
you mean the guy who was a part of your show?
The guy that's on the show?
Right.
Like, what do you and he was like, this is the first time Aaron screamed on him. And it just turned into this whole screaming fest that had never happened before. But he just, he explained to me, he's like, it wasn't really about me. It was about this other shit. But Aaron was using me as a trigger.
Right.
And then that was it. They sort of never really became cool after that for whatever reason. And I think Carl was open to it, but Aaron, for some reason, wasn't. And that essentially ended the Boondocks. So you could say, oh, Vlad ended the Boondocks. I didn't really end the Boondocks. And here's the thing. Carl called me, like, yo, man, Aaron's bugging. I'm like, okay, cool. I called him Complex. They took it down. You know what I'm saying? I think they left just a few little pieces that had nothing remotely specific, which wasn't barely there anyways. But it was like, it was fixed right away. There wasn't any sort of hostility from my end. I was like, they asked me to do an interview. But that caused a fight that was really about a whole lot of other shit. Because if you really think about it, do you really think a Vlad TV interview would end the Boondocks? Like a successful show like that?
You would hope not. But again, egos are crazy. People's egos.
Yeah,
they are crazy.
But it was a very. I just love the show. I love that show.
Especially now.
Yeah,
it's needed.
It's needed, and I think Charlamagne was trying to bring it back, but nah. And it's too bad because Aaron, as talented as he is, he hasn't really done anything really dope since then.
Yeah,
he did Black Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And
Black Jesus was dope. But
it was dope, but it wasn't Boondocks dope.
Success-wise, it didn't.
But it wasn't Boondocks dope.
Yeah, Boondocks, for the amount of seasons it had.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the cartoon Chappelle in terms of
Well, yeah, that was the two shows. My two favorite shows at the time was Chappelle's show and Boondocks.
And each of them made such an impact. I wasn't able to get on
Chappelle's show
with limited
I did get on the
seasons.
Boondocks.
Yeah,
but I did get on the Boondocks. So
right.
I'm like, okay, I'm 50% of my wish list was achieved. But yeah, no, it was like there's already a bunch of issues there, and yeah, Aaron just never quite captured the magic of the Boondocks after that. And I don't know, has he done anything since
I'm not sure.
Black Jesus?
I'm not sure. I'm not too hip to what he's been doing outside of Black Jesus and Boondocks.
Yeah.